Hello everyone and welcome back to another Java Made Simple tutorial video. Imagine the following situation. You wrote your first Hello World program. Some guy saw it and he said, yeah, you're an awesome developer. I want to hire you in my company. So there you are, you have a job and your boss comes to you and says, hey, that Hello World was really nice. You did that perfectly. Now I want you to do exactly the same thing. Print out this Hello World line 1000 times. You may think to yourself, okay, yeah, that's not that hard. I can just duplicate the line 1000 times and it would be okay-ish. But he then says, yeah, and next to this line, please print a number next to each one of them so that I have numbers going from 1 to 1000. You may think, okay, yeah, this will take some time. And he says, yeah, but please do it in the next hour. Okay, by that point you're done. You can't do that in an hour. It takes some time. You don't know, and he will be mad at you. But don't worry, Java got your back. In Java, there is a thing called loops. Actually, this is not just a Java thing, so this is in basically all over the programming languages. There are some loops that can allow you to re-execute specific part of your code, the one that you want. So you give it a block of code that you want to execute, and it will execute it as many times as you want. So you have to say how many times you want. So let's see how that works. Let's declare a variable as we learned in the previous video. Let's make it of type string, and let's name it message, and let's see it hello world. Yeah, that's our hello world message. Now we do this famous loop. The one that we are going to be doing now is called for loop. So for loop looks something like this. So we have this keyword for, so this is a result keyword in Java language. Then we have these brackets. For now they're empty, we need to put something here. And then we have these curly brackets which symbolize the part of our code. In these curly brackets, we know what we want to do, what's the part of the code that we want to execute, and that's to print out the message that we have. So we say system.out.println message. Okay, and now we have to tell it, so to tell to this for loop how many times we want to print this message. For loop looks like this. So you declare an integer in it. Int, let's name it I, so as an index, and this is equal to 0. Then you have a semicolon. Then you say I must be less than 1000 because we want it 1000 times, and I++. What I++ means is that it's going to increment itself by 1. So if it's null, then I++ comes into play, and then it's 1. Then I++, then it's 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. So let's just run our program for now and see what happens. So we run our program and we should see hello world 1000 times. My IntelliJ takes some time, yeah. So I'm not going to count it, but believe me, you can see the scroll bar here, it's 1000 times. So how does this work? You say in your for loop, hey, I have this integer I, which is 0. As long as I is less than 1000, print this message or execute this block of code. And as soon as you have executed it, increase the I by 1. Now the I, so in the first iteration, I is 0. We print out our message because I is less than 1000, 0 is less than 1000. And then we print our message and then we increment it by 1. So now I is 1. So it doesn't look at this part anymore. As soon as you're done with the first iteration, it doesn't care about it. Now it has a different value. So it's 1 at this moment, and it takes a look at here and says, oh, okay, 1 is still less than 1000. Let's print the message, increment. Then it's 2, 3, 4, and so on. When it's on 999, it's less than 1000. It prints the message and it increments it to 1000. So the I is now 1000. When it's 1000, it says 1000 less than 1000. No, because they are equal. I will not print the message. I'm done with the for loop and it just exits. So that's it. So for example, if we would put 3 here, it will go exactly the same. 0, it starts with 0, 0 less than 3, yes, print the message, increment to 1. 1 less than 3, yes, print the message, increment to 2. 2 less than 3, yes, print the message, increment to 3. 3 less than 3, no, then we're done. We don't want to do anything anymore. We can also print this I so that we know its value. For example, in our case, if we would add it here, so I'm adding just a string, so this is just blah, whatever, doesn't matter. So I'm just adding something here that I can show what's the value of I, so that it just looks nice. So this is not any syntax, so everything other quotes is just text. You can put there whatever you want, plus I. So this is a string that will contain our message that we have here, plus this part here, plus the value of I. So if we run our program again, we should be able to see that in the console. So in the console, we now see hello world 0, hello world 1, and hello world 2. We don't see 3 because we don't go to 3. And you can see 0 because the first value that we start with is 0. Usually the for loops will start with 0, but you can start with any number. Like if I would start with 5, we should not see any messages because immediately at the beginning 5 is less than 3. 5 is not less than 3, and we just don't print anything. So you can see that there are no messages. And if we start with 1, we should see only 2 messages. So for 1 and for 2, because those are the only 2 numbers that are going to be printed. So we have 1 and 2. And if we would say here I is less or equal to 3, we learned this in our Boolean video, what this means. So this means that it can even be 3 because that would also be true. So you have to make this part here true, and with the I of being value of 3, so 3 is less or equal than 3, which is true because it's equal. And then if you run it, then you should have 3 messages, which is 1, 2, and 3. And again, if you would start with 0, then you would have 4 messages, 0, 1, 2, and 3. I guess you get the point here, so it's not that complicated. One important thing for loop, or basically any loop, is that you can exit it at some point that you want. For example, then you can say if I equals 1, for example, break. Break means stop, don't do anything else. So we should see message for 0, and that should be it, because as soon as this is 1, we should just exit and end our for loop. You can see it here. Also, one important thing is continue. What this does, it doesn't exit the loop, but just ends at this index. So it doesn't execute anything on this index because it won't execute this part here. It will just say, okay, yeah, I is 1. I will execute this block, and in this block it has this continue, so it will just end the loop, but just for this iteration. So it would still go to this part and increment it to 2 at this moment, and then go again. So if we run our loop, we should not see hello world 1 because this one should be skipped. So this is something like skip. So you can see 0, 2, and 3. So for loops are useful at the moments where you know how many times you want to execute something. So for example, here we know we want it 4 times, 3 times, 10 times, 1000 times, doesn't matter. We know the number, the fixed amount, so we execute it that many times. If we have a need to execute something some number of times, but we do not know how many times, then we can use a while loop. While loop is similar to the for one, so you have this while keyword, you have these brackets where we have to put something, and in the brackets you can say system.out.println message. Now while loop takes in, so if you press Ctrl Q by default on IntelliJ, okay, this doesn't really work, I was expecting it to work, doesn't matter. So the while loop takes in a boolean. So if I would write true here, this would work. So while ever something that here is true, print this message. If I run my program, you will see that the bad thing happens. I get stuck in this loop because my true is always true. You can see that the messages are just being printed all the time because, yeah, this is always true. This will never be false. So this part here, it's always true. So let's just end this program, and you can see that I printed it, I don't know how many times. And let's do something different. Let's say I have an integer with the name whatever x, that's 0. And I say here, as long as x is less than 5, I want to print this message. And if I would run my program again, I would again run into infinite loop because my x is 0 and it's always less than 5. But if I say here x plus plus, that means that it will be incremented. So if I run my program again, you should see a limited number of messages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I saw 5 messages here. We can again add our x here just to see the value. And you can see that it's similar as what we had in the for loops. This is, again, you have this break condition and and the continue, so to skip it, but the while loop is useful when you don't know number of execution. You may say to me, okay, yeah, but I definitely know it because I put 5 here. In more complicated programs, it works a bit differently. Imagine that you have, I don't know, some application where you can fetch some data from your database. For example, you have a button in your application, and if you click it, it turns something to false. And you can say in your while loop, while whatever that thing is true, execute this, print a message. And the message is being printed because this is always true. And then some user goes and clicks that button. Now that something is false, and your loop stops. So as soon as you are done with the execution, it will just stop, and that's it. So that's just one of example. It's really hard to explain this, to not get more complicated, to not confuse you. For now, I just want you to know how the syntax looks like for the while loop and the for loop and what you can use it for. You'll see later how are we going to use it in our other implementations that we are going to do. So hopefully this was clear enough, and hopefully you understand while loops and for loops. And in the next video, we are definitely going to be using them more, so you will see more examples on how to use them, and things will get even more clear. So just stick with me and everything should be fine. Of course, if you have any questions, please write me either an email or write a comment on the video, and I will try to explain them as best as I can. So that's it for this video. Please do subscribe to my channel and like this video if you like it. If you do not like it, give me a dislike so that I know and where I can improve.